Okay. Sorry for the awkward intro. It's because we've been having this funny thing with Riverside and YouTube, and we can't quite sync up when we go live and when it actually appears on YouTube. So hopefully it kind of worked and everyone can hear me. But what you've probably noticed so far is that Raj has started talking and it's not Mize. So sorry for the disappointment. Mize isn't with us today, so you've just got me and Chooks. So
It's going to be
maybe
massive disappointment, mate. That's just you and
yeah,
I.
exactly. A little bit shortchanged in some ways. We'll try and make up for it. I feel like we've got a lot to say because it is still raw. We obviously this is a somewhat of a proper on the whistle because Arsenal played at 5:45 today. We've drawn 1-1 with Leverkusen away from home in the first leg of this Champions League knockout tie. And we are just after half time of the sort of next batch of games. So currently, we've got Bodo Glimt winning 2-0 and PSG beating Chelsea 2-1 and Madrid beating City 3-0. So, in a kind of hybrid watch along type thing, Chooks has got an eye on the TV. So if there's any interesting goals, he might let us know. But I mean, it's difficult to just say those scores and gloss over the fact that I just said Real Madrid 3, City 0. That's pretty mind fucking blowing, is it not? Given the whole build up to that game was essentially that Real Madrid have got about 10 outfield players, in respective position injured. They could literally have fielded an injured 11 if you like. And so, the pendulum was swinging allegedly in City's way in terms of, who's favourites for this tie. And then, Fede Valverde just goes and scores a first half hat trick. I mean, it's just like Madrid all over, isn't it? It's just like somehow they just find a way in the Champions League. And Valverde, who's not their talismanic goal scorer, he just looks like Messi. His third goal, unbelievable. Like I think, Chooks, before we get into Arsenal, any thoughts on what you're seeing at the moment in Real Madrid City?
This is typical Madrid. This is typical, right? I mean, at the end of the day, this is why that they are, I have to admit, they're a magical club because you can never count them out. There's something about always with this club, whenever you play them and everybody's saying, yeah, they've got so many people out injured, there's so many key players missing. But you're right, in any position and at any point, they just remember that they're Real Madrid. And then all of a sudden they turn up. They've got City here. And you're right, Valverde's just decided, I think I'm just gonna go and win this game. And at the moment, they seem to be in control, complete control of this match, and there's not really anything City can do. And I would maybe even say that maybe they've rallied around each other with the fact that they have got so many injuries that potentially it's just galvanized the team because they maybe for weirdly the pressure is off in a way because nobody was expecting them to take much out of this game. Oddly, even though they're at home at the Bernabeu, and we're talking about Real Madrid, and they've just gone and just played football, and Valverde has obviously just picked up the mantle and decided he's going to be the man tonight, and I love it. I'm here for it. Um, the matches so far are going the way that we, as Arsenal, would hope them to go.
I
So
know. Do
yeah,
Real Madrid
I'm
have a
all for this
penalty?
evening.
My phone is telling me Real Madrid have a penalty, Jukes.
They have got a penalty. Yes.
Okay, so you keep an eye on that. You keep an eye on that. Well, I mean, because just following up on what you said, right? Like, I think the crazy thing about Real Madrid's love affair with this competition is that I think it's not just about some random, lucky, mysterious thing that they have when they play in the Champions League. It was so interesting hearing Gareth Bale on the Stick to Football podcast talking about his experience as a Real Madrid player. And he was basically just talking about how they essentially the Champions League is everything. The Champions League is the most important competition and it gets absolute priority over everything else. And he essentially says, fine, we're still expected to win La Liga, but we know that if you're not playing Barcelona or to a certain extent Atletico Madrid, it's just about how many goals you'll beat the opposition by. So you basically just manage your squad and manage your workload around Champions League ties, right? Everything is focused on that. All the prep is around those Champions League ties. The press are fucking on one in the build up to it. And he goes like the main thing as well is Florentino Perez. He always rocks up with the team at their hotel for big games in inverted commas, right? And when he rocks up, the players all know, okay, it's like a serious game, like it's an important game. They like that, and he goes Champions League games. He always rocks up. You're going to say something.
Penalties about to be taken. Vinny Jr. and saved. Oh, Donnarumma save. Vinny messed that up. I mean, he did one of those, hitch kicks before he kicked it. It was a bit of a faff. Really easy for Donnarumma to reach, and yeah, saved. But to be quite frank, at 3-0 up, they can afford that. They can afford the faff. But I think Vinny could have done much better with that.
There's me
Much
hyping
better.
up, right? The magic of this competition for Real Madrid, the focus, and they just go and miss a penalty as I finish my little monologue about that. But I guess the point I just want to land on that. It feels like it's not by luck or whatever. They are super hyper focused about their relationship with this trophy is the most important thing. And I guess we're seeing it play out now. And all the more reason to bring up the outrageous fact that I think I am hoping I get this stat right. I don't think Real Madrid have ever beaten Arsenal in a Champions League tie. I may have got that a tad wrong, but someone can correct me on this. Like, I read something like that. At worst, I think it's something like they haven't beaten Arsenal in a Champions League tie in 15 years. But I think it may be bigger than that. And I think they may have just never beaten Arsenal in a Champions League tie. I'll just throw that out there. I also see that Chelsea have equalized against PSG, by the way.
Yeah. Literally right now. On the point around Real Madrid have never beaten Arsenal, we need to look. We need to confirm that before the end of this cast, right? We need to fact check that for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I am searching, Shooks, right now on Google. Have Real Madrid ever beaten Arsenal?
Nice goal from Chelsea. Nice goal. Yeah. Hold themselves back to the tie.
Champions League.
I think it was Enzo. Yeah, Enzo scored. Wow, interesting. So, PSG now, I think, well, okay, 2-2 at home, and they got to go to Stamford Bridge as well.
So I don't know if they have, Chooksy. Nothing is coming up here of Real
Madrid.
Really? Yeah, so Arsenal Real Madrid head-to-head history. This is like a very interesting segue for everyone. Apologies, but I think we need to get to the bottom of this, don't we? So matches played. The last two matches we played, Arsenal won. Arsenal beat Madrid 2-1. Arsenal beat Madrid 3-0. Then Arsenal in the Champions League, when we got to the final, we drew 0-0. We beat them 1-0 in Bernabeu. That's it. That's the only times we played them in the Champions League, I think. I think so. That's what this seems to be. UEFA's official website says.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, you're actually all right.
So look, it's not a hell of a lot of times, is it? But still, let's if we do meet them again, let's see if we can keep that record up. But no, it's so yeah. Look, interesting. It's all going on. I mean, let's pivot to Arsenal because I guess what's happening in Madrid has cheered me up a little bit. We can talk a little bit about whether it's a good thing or bad thing. Actually, Man City kind of taking a pasting and maybe going out. Let's talk about Arsenal. So look. All the chat before the game was that Arsenal were going to walk this one. That was really the unanimous chat. Loads of reasons. One, Arsenal are actually very good. And Leverkusen, even for Bundesliga standards, are not very good. They're just not very good. I think they're like around 4th or 5th. They may be even lower than that. And sixth. Right, okay, so they're 6th in the Bundesliga. I mean, Dortmund are 2nd in the Bundesliga. Atalanta beat Dortmund. Atalanta just got pasted 6-1 by Bayern Munich. So yesterday, the stock for the Bundesliga was probably, let's say, an all-time low, even with like Bayern Munich like battering Atalanta, because I think that was just an indication of the fact that Bayern Munich overall play in a league where it's just a piece of piss for them. And so Leverkusen there in 6th place, right? Like, I think the writing was on the wall to a certain extent. And, I will even say, again, I can't remember if I mentioned on the last one, I bumped into Bernd Leno at the barbershop on the day of the draw. Yeah. He played for Leverkusen. He played for Arsenal. I asked him what he thought of that of the draw. And he said it was going to be easy for Arsenal. He said it's easy draw, right? Everyone, including ex-players, therefore, thought it was going to be easy, right? Mate, we scraped a draw. We scraped a draw and we stunk that place out. Tell me like how you feel. What's your overall feeling from that game?
Flat. We were pedestrian in nature. It felt like we were only operating really at walking pace. Um, we really, especially in the final third, we were quite devoid, and we can get into some of the players specifically shortly. Um, I I almost felt, I'm going to say this cautiously, but I felt like the weight of the running that we're now kind of going into was somewhat showing on the players. What I mean by that is there's a lot of games because we're in all competitions between now and the end of the season. And so there's a lot of football to be played. And so with that, I don't know if I can't say this was necessarily tactical, but you could clearly see because of the weight of what is coming up, this wasn't a cup final to these guys, right? Where it was like a win at all costs. This was we're away at Leverkusen. We know they've got to come to the Emirates. Let's just get some kind of result. But we're not going all out here. We've got to manage our stamina. We've got to manage our players. We want to get away with no injuries. So it's almost like a steady as she goes. But then what resulted was in my view, a pretty poor performance and almost a defeat. We managed to scrape a draw, which I think is maybe what we were playing for because we knew that this wasn't a jeopardy game, right?
Can we
So
just dive
yeah,
into all everything that you've just said so far, right? Because yeah, I think right at the beginning you listed a few things. I think all those things are interesting, and I think what you just talked about now is arguably the most interesting area because it's one that I was wondering while I was watching this, and I think you've kind of answered the question I was going to ask you. And the question I was going to ask you is, do you think that they have looked at all the fixtures coming up and gone, okay, so what we need to do is we need to manage this by playing at a certain pace. So basically, this is a very intentional, we are going to play at this pace because we just cannot go hell for leather. Not even hell for leather. We can't go fourth gear. Like we can't. We can barely touch third if we're really generous ourselves. Or is it a case of we are actually knackered? So like we're actually knackered, and the way that we've been playing recently and today, that included, very much included, is this a case where they're going, well, actually, like we don't want to play this slowly, we don't want to play this, perhaps conservatively, we don't want to lack this kind of crisp execution, we're just fucking knackered. I would be super concerned if it's the latter, super concerned, because like you said, there's loads of games to go. We're only at the bloody beginning of March. Like, so it's going to get worse. There's 2 games every week. Each of those games has more on the line, right? So I'm somewhat reassured that you think it's the former, I mean, but clarify that for me a bit. So you think it's the former? You think this is we are deciding to do this because this is going to be a marathon, and this is the best, smartest, strategic way of conserving energy?
do just because when you saw some of the players positioning um, in opportunities, nobody was racing and killing themselves to get in the box so that they could be on the end of a cross. It was pedestrian, mate. And even at times when people had opportunities, it felt like, and you would have seen me put it in the chat. There were times where I thought, take the shot, but they were still kind of just almost, and Timbo's really guilty of this, flicking the ball back or trying to pass. And in my view, I thought, nah, this isn't a team who are absolutely driving to get an outcome here. This is a team that's just kind of going through the motions, almost like a training session, and just saying, let's just control this game, control it. A draw is fine. A 0-0 is fine here, right? And if we can nick a goal, okay, that's fine. The main outcome is getting to Highbury and then finishing it off there. That was what I felt I was watching, because
Is it arrogant? Is that an arrogant way of playing? Is that you're basically saying we know we'll get the job done over two legs? So you know what? If we draw, we draw, and you know we're good enough to draw. Like so, it's gonna like is that it's a Champions
I think
League
it's, I
knockout
think
game.
no, I honestly I don't think it's arrogant. I actually don't. I actually think it's the way that they. So if they want to go for all four, which by the way, we have spoken about this before. I don't think that they should. I think that they should prioritize certain competitions because it's unrealistic to go for all four. But clearly, it's historic. We've never been in this position before, and nobody's ever done the quadruple. So, in my view, they actually are going for all four, and that is risky because it's almost like an all or nothing. You run the risk of ending up with nothing. But clearly, the only way to do it is strategic, right? You've got to manage the games. You've got to manage the game time of people. You've got to also manage how you are playing the games. You cannot go at a 90%, 100% in every single game. You're going to have injuries, and then there's a high risk. And I think you've said this before, Raj. These guys are very much data driven. There's nothing. It's not by accident a lot of the time in terms of the way they play and what they do. It is data driven. So I do believe that they've looked at this game and they've gone, it's away, it's a Leverkusen, manage the game, manage the minutes, manage the people, make sure that, we come out with some kind of result. If we're pedestrian, that's fine. We know we can finish the game at Highbury and we've got so much to play for. There's no way that we should be going all out for this. I do believe that was a tactic.
I 70% agree with you. I agree. I 70% agree that this was intentional. I I worry about whether that's a good idea. Like, and I know, yeah, okay, you're completely right. If we're going to compete on all four fronts, there's got to be this element of just being serious, right, and being logical. But I guess where we are right now, right, is the running of the Carabao Cup is over. There's one game left. Okay, there's only one. So it's not even a case of deprioritizing that. You're going to prioritize it as much as anything else. It's just one game left. FA Cup, we've not really had to prioritize or not prioritize because we've had a fairly gentle sort of draw so far. We had Mansfield, and we're going to have Southampton. So for that, we'll probably play a second string anyway. So in that respect, I kind of feel like they haven't, aside from that Carabao run, there's not really much else they could have done in terms of rotation and all that kind of stuff all this time. But I suppose that the concern I'd have, Jukes, right, is that we still went out and played arguably our best team. Yeah. Like our best available team. Arguably he's done that. You could debate, the ones that didn't play were tactical. They weren't like Arteta was going, no, actually, I want to rest this player. Otherwise I usually would have started. It felt more tactical. Maybe Havertz an exception. Anyway, but the point is he's played a lineup. He's basically played his best lineup. And now because we haven't got the job done, when we go to the Emirates next week, he has to play his best team again. Right. So it's not even like what he could have done if we, in another universe is gone, right, God, well, let's kill it this leg. If we win by 2 goals, mate, we can manage the Emirates tie. We can manage that. You don't even need to start with your best team, or you can just like play at a gentle pace. You can bring some people off. He's got to play his best team now, like on whatever. So I don't know, mate.
No. Come on. And I know. It's harder to kill the tie when the first game is away from home. It's it's very hard. And again,
But you
the
try, though.
risk.
Shouldn't you try? Shouldn't you try and do it?
No, Raj.
What about
The
PSV
risk
last
of
season? PSV, like 7-1 or whatever, then put your legs up in the second leg, draw 2-2, happy days, who
no, no,
cares?
no, 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 no. The risk of injury, the risk of burnout by trying to push to kill it off in the first leg. Again, you gotta box smart at this point, right? So killing it off in the first leg away from home, yeah, they potentially could have done that, but the effort would have been huge. The risk would have been huge. Instead, getting the result, getting it to Emirates, and again, that doesn't mean that they don't have to go necessarily hell for leather at Emirates, right? Again, this is all data driven, mate. So they know if we play our game and we are just strong and solid at the back, which we are. We've got our system, and we are consistent in our approach. We can get the job done at Emirates without too much of an additional effort and move on to the next game. And then, if there is a problem, we're at home. We have a better chance of fixing that if there's an issue and and either revving it up or changes in players if we have to. But
Yeah.
we can still get the job done without, the whole coefficient of how much more effort do I need to do at home. We'll be able to do it. And now, I think once we start to get into the latter stage, potentially past this stage, whether he will still deploy that tactic, or whether he would do it a little bit different, TBC. Because potentially, as you're
Yeah.
getting closer and closer to the end, and there's less and less games, and the jeopardy is much more higher, right? He may go, okay, for this leg or for this stage, fine, but for the next stage, I don't know if we can do that again because
Yeah.
it will depend on who we're playing, and I mean, right now I'm looking at the scores. Bodo is stuffing Sporting 2-0. They just scored again. So
3-0.
that is it just gone 3-0?
Yeah. So it was 2-0 before. It was 2-0, like, I think, but I think I'm pretty sure they've just scored. It says 3-0 on my phone.
Right. Okay. Well. Yeah.
Well,
They may have just scored that the second. It's not quite updated on my picture yet. So I tell you what, this Bodo team are not. Yeah. It is
they're
3-0.
not they're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bad.
You're right.
So I
They're
mean,
doing
yeah,
well.
okay. Like, look, yeah. So I have thoughts on this Bodo thing, and I fully agree. If we go through, right, and it looks like it's Bodo, it still may not be, by the way, because I think Bodo Glimt are one of those sides who are they're just much better at home because they have such a freakishly abnormal environment there. It's just they have an artificial pitch, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's completely and the artificial pitch moves rapidly, so you can train for it or whatever, but you're basically going and you're playing in a stadium which has an artificial pitch where the ball's moving rapid. It's cold as fuck, and you're playing it again. I think 8,000 fans is like their stadium size, so it's a mind fuck, right? I think
Yeah.
you go there
Yeah.
and I think it's
Yeah.
a mind fuck, and you're playing against a team who's this is what they do. This is where they play, right? So I think they basically just try and like knock you out at home and then hope for the best when they come away. So on the contrary, I think if we get through and we go, I would actually be happy with a draw away from home at Bodo Glimt. I'll be happy with that. Then we come home and we batter them, right? I can see that. But if we just stay on this right now, right? So I'm playing devil's advocate with some of the things that I say because I think you are right, and in the sense that I think on Tuesday, it's Tuesday, right, when we play Leverkusen.
All right, mate. 3-2 PSG.
Oh, hello. Who scored for PSG?
Yeah.
Let's have a look here. Vitinha. Oh, wow. See, look, this is the thing, mate, right? So they bring on Kvara casually after 60 minutes. A man gets an assist 10 minutes later. But yeah. So when we play on Tuesday, the likelihood is actually the lineup will not be the same as this anyway, for tactical reasons as well, right? He's probably more likely to play a Calafiori at left back, for example. He may well actually go with Madueke on the right anyway. We could see Trossard. Yeah, like, so things may change. I don't know, Odegaard might be back, so things might change. So yeah, you're right. Like, fine. But and it's also a bit of an interesting kind of period, isn't it? Because we've got Everton coming up, and then so it's Everton, then Leverkusen, and then the Carabao Cup final, and then international break. I think that's how it goes. But anyway, let's go back to this game for a second because I think we haven't finished unloading about some of the things that we saw. Okay, so we've made peace to some extent of like the overall approach in some ways. But let's move on to performances regardless. Okay. Cheeks, I was very, very, very disheartened with the level of the technical level on show today. Um, After about 20 minutes, I sort of felt like, okay, do you know what? It seems like the way we're doing this is that we know we're going to get a few chances because we've got quality. And so in those moments, we'll create 3 or 4 chances. And we think we're good enough to defend whatever they can throw at us. So it's probably not going to be a fun game to watch this, but we're probably going to win. And I think that I kind of concluded that mainly after seeing Martinelli hit the bar, and that move was pretty nice. And I was like, okay, more of these are going to come. So I was kind of at peace with it. But honestly, it did not work out that way. I think that was our best chance, really, right? And then it just was just so tepid, and they grew into the game as a result. But let's talk about some individual performances, maybe, because for me, as a lot of these players just did not cover themselves in glory. We've had a central midfield who has arguably been one of the best central midfield pairings in Europe this season, but on the ball, they have failed to dominate and control a game for about 1 to 2 months now. They failed to really go, right, let's boss this and dictate play and set tempo and really, really just control the game in the kind of in the most rudimentary sense of the word. And then we can just move to all other areas of the pitch. I've got enough to say about our wingers. Eze, my God. I don't know where to start. Gyökeres I can forgive somewhat because of when all those others aren't playing well, what the hell's that guy supposed to do really? But still, that he wasn't fantastic. What did you think, mate? Anyone you want to call out? Anything that concerned you mainly, or was it more of a collective issue that you were concerned about?
It was a collective issue, but there were a couple of players that did concern me in terms of what I was seeing. We spoke about Eze before, mate, and I don't know. I was hoping that this move of shifting him a little bit more central, so to be like that direct attacking midfielder behind the striker, was going to be more his domain. He still goes missing in games. He still drifts into space that you go, well, how are you thinking that's the best place to position yourself based on where the ball is at the moment? He still does odd things when he's on the ball. He's got all the ability in the world, but his vision and reading of the game, and don't get me wrong, I know it's still a new team. He's still fitting in, but he's been there here the whole season, right? He's almost got a season under his belt. And I still feel as if he's disjointed from the rest of the team. And my view is, except for the Spurs games, I haven't seen a performance from the guy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but except for those 2 Spurs games, I have not seen an actual performance from Eze when he's been on the pitch and been on the ball. And that really does concern me because I'm going, well, when is it going to happen? Because what I'm seeing right now doesn't bode well. And I'm already going, okay, well, clearly that position is a position that we need to think about signing somebody in the summer for. Whereas originally I was hoping it was only going to be for the left wing side, but I'm now thinking we also need to potentially sign someone in the center, which is unreal because we just signed him, and he was the person that we were hoping was going to really transform that position in the next few years. So, Eze does concern me. Martinelli always concerns me, unfortunately. He's, we know what he does. We know what he brings. He's not bringing anything new. That's why I've been saying for a while, the left wing is a position that we do need a bit of surgery on. But who really did concern me tonight was Saka.
Can we just, let's get on to Saka in a sec, right? Can we kind of just like go a little bit more on Eze? And I think Martinelli, there was a bit of a link there point, right? Because Eze can play on the left wing as well. I share your concerns massively about Eze, and it's really frustrating. I think that it's very clear that Arsenal liked Eze, but didn't really want to sign him. And Havertz gets that injury, and they've kind of gone, okay, we're short. And it just kind of went, right, okay, this kind of makes sense. And, what could go wrong? And I don't think it was a bad idea. It wasn't a bad idea to do that move in that moment in time. And I still don't think it's a bad idea. And and I think if I'm to make a statement which kind of summarizes how I feel about it, is Eberechi Eze is good enough to play for Arsenal. Eberechi Eze is not good enough to start in number 10 for Arsenal. He is not good enough a player to start at number 10 for Arsenal Football Club unless you are playing Mansfield or Tottenham. Right? I'm not being harsh, but I'm saying the type of football we play, the expectations on us, you can't play the way he does at number 10. You just can't. You can do it maybe, if things aren't working out and you want to try something else and you change a few other things. Okay, cool. Go for it. Whatever. But he's not working as your plan A number 10. It's just not. And so I have that same thought as you, where I think, well, hang on then. So, we're not completely satisfied with Odegaard as well at the moment, right? We do need a genuine alternative, or even just to move on from that. So it doesn't feel like Eze is the answer to that, right? So for solving for that, unless we're saying, okay, do you know what? Nwaneri is going to come in next season and he's going to go bang. I don't think we're going to take that kind of risk. I don't think so. So I think they will be thinking about that position. And then I think my concern for Eze is a little bit then, okay, well, yes, I still think he's a good footballer, but like you just touched on with Martinelli, where is Eze in the pecking order on the left-hand side currently? Third or fourth, maybe, because Madueke could play left as well. And we are saying, which I agree with you, that we need to upgrade on the left. So your third or fourth choice on the side we have to upgrade on. So I have big concerns with Eze of, even though he's good enough a footballer to play for Arsenal, where's his future in all this?
And part of it, mate, is I don't think he fits our system. I think that's a part of the problem. It's not. I'm going to try and be somewhat diplomatic here and say it's not all Eze's fault, right? Part of it
It's
is
not.
the
Yeah.
system, right? And the way that we play football, and the way that we are set up, and we set ourselves up to win. There's an element of there's a team that battles. There's a team that's robust. There's a team that tries to ensure that it doesn't lose, and then finds a way to win the game, right? And Eze is that maverick that if it was, let's say, probably potentially you stick Eze, let's say, I'm just watching them, but this PSG team that are full of footballers, really talented footballers. They're syncing up play, they're linking up, really well together. They're finding ways to find space. Maybe Eze actually clicks in that team, but for the team that is Arsenal, which is pragmatic, which is let's be tight, let's be strong, and we've got a team of battlers, and also we find a way to win, and we've got multiple ways of winning. That potentially doesn't suit Eze. Therefore, the question is then, well, what do you do with him? Because right now he's getting a bit of a run in the side. I think Arteta, to be fair, and is actually good of him, maybe a bit risky, but it is good of him, is taking a risk and just giving him a run in the team so that at least it isn't well, you didn't give me a chance to start Gaffer, right?
Because he got that criticism, didn't he, Arteta? When I think Eze started, did okay. I think it was against Wigan, I think. And then next game, he started Saka in the 10 and he played Madueke right. And he got criticism because he was like, well, Eze he's a confidence player, he's a form player. You've got to give him, and whether it's because of that criticism or not, I doubt it's because of the criticism. But you are right. Arteta has done him a solid here.
Yeah. He's given him a run. And it's not looking good at the moment, right? So I especially once we start to really get into the business end of the league, I don't know if it's going to stay that way. There are options on the bench. Havertz is back, and he even played at one point. He played Havertz at the 10, Jesus up front. So there are different options that he can do. I don't know if and with Odegaard hopefully coming back imminently, I don't know if Eze will keep that slot. So yeah. it's disappointing because I really hope that he was going to be, you know, the key that just unlocked a lot of stuff for us. But I'm just, it's not even that he's playing badly. I just don't even see what he's adding to the game. As I said, he's taking up positions that I'm not sure what brilliant goal PSG 4-2, brilliant goal. So
There was such
Chelsea,
a seamless transition onto that statement. Amazing. All right. Who scored?
um,
Oh, Kvara. I mean,
yeah. So I'm just not sure what he's adding to the team. And let me actually even give you another thought. Imagine imagine a team where you've got Zubamendi, you've got potentially Declan Rice, and then let's say you have another Declan Rice type player playing in that 10 slot. So not because what he's doing right now, what obviously Arteta likes is he likes the creative player in that 10 slot. So either the Odegaard or the Eze or someone who can try to unlock a defense. But as we've said, because of the style of player that they are, sometimes they just go drifting in games and it doesn't quite work. And therefore, there's an element of the team then kind of carries them a little bit. But imagine if you had another Rice style individual. So instead of going and getting someone who's in another creative, getting somebody who is in a who can do that, but is also a bit of a battler and that maybe fits with just the overall style of the team to play in that 10 slot. All of a sudden, you know, the team could really benefit from that because that is just our style, right? I'm not saying that he should go and necessarily do that. I'm not saying that there isn't a space for creatives, but there's just a thought I'm just thinking. Instead of having a player that we're carrying, imagine if we had a player that was just adding to the way that we play and we just accept this is just how we play. I wonder what that would do to the team.
yeah, I agree. I look, am I am a real big fan of trying to make the Saka at 10 work. Because if you look at, for example, what PSG are doing, what they did last season, they just play a bunch of like really talented, like wide forwards. Like they play basically like four of them, and they have more on the bench, and they rotate, and they can all finish, and like they just got so many different potent options on the pitch who all just want to like to go, like they all want to just go at you. Um, and I don't, and I think maybe a Saka at 10 world is the answer. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, like but can we talk about Saka though? Because you were about to talk about him before I kind of brought you back onto these guys. But look, he got hooked before 60 minutes. I don't think it even was 60 minutes. This happened once before this season where he was hooked on a game, and I think it was around the 75th, 80th minute, and it was the first time that he had come off where it really looked like he had come off because of performance. Like literally, Arteta is saying, "I would rather have someone else on the pitch right now than you," which usually never happens for Saka, even if he's having a bad game. And to have this on 57 minutes, and I think I was saying, in our chat that I'm sure they'll kind of come out and say that he had some knock. I'm still sure they will do that to sort of save face. It's not nice to have your like franchise player, if you like, look like he's losing favor or looking like he's someone that you want to take off when you need a goal. You don't really want that. So I think they will say that. But let's be honest here. He didn't stink out the place. I think that's not the right phrase. He was trying to do the right things, but he just couldn't do them. That's what it felt like to me. He just couldn't. He was like, he was making the right decisions. Like when it was the right decision to cross, he was crossing. When it was a what is
No,
this? What is your face? Tell me who
5-2.
five.
Oh, they're offside. He's offside. It was PSG. They'd scored. I mean, a complete and utter mess from Chelsea, defensive mess. But no, it was offside.
Right, quality. Wow. Yeah. As I said, when it was the right time to dribble, he was trying to dribble. When it was the right time to cross, he was trying to cross. When it was the right time to try and take a shot, he was trying to do those things. But he did all of those things badly, right? The crosses weren't good crosses if they were coming in at all, if they were beating the first man at all. The shots weren't coming off at all. They weren't beating the first man. The dribbles weren't coming off at all. It's a concern, right? Because it's not like a one-off game. He's not really hit a level for a while. He scored against Brighton the other day. Yes, deflected goal. Okay. Outside of that, didn't really do much else, like after that point. His GA numbers haven't been great all season. We've been talking about it, but we've been basically saying that he is that good a player that at some point it's going to click. So how good is it that we're on top of all the league and this and that? Because at some point Saka will click. Will he click at some point, Jukes? Because this was a really concerning performance for me on a very big night.
Yeah, and by the way, there's now a scrap happening in that PSG Chelsea game. It's all kicking off. It's all kicking off over there. It is drama galore. Now I think somebody's gone into the hoarding, and yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
So I'm gonna slightly contradict you here, mate. I think he did stink the place out.
Oh wow.
That was my view. I think he did stink the place out. What you said was right. He was trying to do various things. He just couldn't do them, right? And it almost felt like it was very standard. It was predictable. We could all see what he was about to do, sitting thousands of miles away watching it on television. So you can imagine if you are the player trying to defend against him, then and it was pretty much every time he was going to cut back inside. He was going to cut back inside and try and get the ball into his left foot, right? You could see that just the way he was kind of positioning, the way that his shoulder was about to drop, the way that his hip was positioning. You can see it. Now, Saka, the beauty about Saka is he does different things. He's unpredictable. So you don't know if he's going to cut back to the left, or if he's going to take you on, if he's going to take it down, down the line and then try to cross it in. But tonight it just felt enormously predictable, and they figured him out. And then that's why he was hooked, because he just stank. Maybe he has got a knock, and maybe it is true, because that is not what I saw tonight. Was not the Saka that we normally see, right? The unpredictable kind of kid. It was just a paint by numbers kind of shell of a Saka that was playing this evening.
What's he got to do though, Cheeks? What's he got to do? Because I hate it when I hear the things about players getting knocks and whatever. I'm like, my goodness, I know the demands on players are higher now than they perhaps were 10, 20, 30 years ago. But everyone plays through knocks. When you're in big clubs, you play through knocks. And it feels like we constantly, when big players don't put in good performances, we're like, oh, he's playing through a knock. Oh, he's like playing through this. Oh, he had an injection or something like this. I don't want that to be the story with him for the rest of the season. What does he have? What have they? Sorry, by the way, have PSG scored?
Goal. Yeah, goal. Yeah.
What a ridiculous game! I really wish I was watching this.
What carry on? I mean, the scuffle was because I think one of the Chelsea players had pushed the ball boy into the hoarding, and then it just kicked off. And then PSG have now, because they kind of lost their minds a little bit, PSG's just gone and punished them 5-2.
Okay, now
what a mess.
I mean, just slight pause on Saka and say, what a bad week for the narrative that English clubs are like the best in Europe. Like every English club who played in the Champions League, apart from us, lost. Sorry, Newcastle drew. Fair enough.
Okay,
no one won.
Fair enough.
No one
Everybody else lost, and badly. It wasn't even like close, really badly. So, and at this stage, which is you're getting into the business end of the Champions League, but you're still not at the end yet. And it's looking at the moment like pretty much, all of them except us and maybe Newcastle, is still TBC, and knock on wood, are going to be going out, because these numbers are hard to overturn, really hard to overturn.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that Liverpool can probably at Anfield do it, overturn a 1-0 against Galatasaray. but the way that Liverpool have been playing this season is not 100%. Chelsea are right. Like, I mean, I don't know how they're going to overturn this at the Bridge. City, I mean, okay, fine. They have, in theory, they've got some players who can do serious damage, and they've got Pep, but still, man, 3-0. Yeah, geez. Tottenham.
You forgot about Spurs.
Tottenham. Oh God. Anyway, look, on Saka. Okay, so I mean, I guess we're not going to be able to solve the problem, but we need to do something, don't we, at some point? Because you see, we're not going to be able to just do this all for the rest of the season and come out with. Okay, we might be able to do this all season, and maybe we may be able to win the Carabao. Yeah. We may even, like, actually, coming to think of it, like, we may, because of the way the fixtures are for us coming up, and because of the sort of the way that fixtures are coming out for City, we may be able to be this turgid, this kind of like this conservative, this lacking kind of in the final third, and actually still win the Premier League. Bizarrely, like that could still happen. But oh my God, it's going to be the most painful couple of months if we do that. And if we don't, if we keep playing like this and we don't win the Premier League and we don't win the Champions League, like all the Champions League, does I say we don't win either of those competitions and we continue playing like this? I'm not really sure what we take from the end of this season. Like, what is the positive that we take? Where do we go from that point, right? Like, I do have a bit of anxiety about this because I really thought we'd come out today and, like, kind of assert ourselves. And yeah, maybe, I'll take your point, maybe. And, Charles made that point as well in the comments here. Arteta wanted to, perhaps this is part of the plan and he wants to kind of, do it at home. Okay, fine, maybe. But you know what? Like, do you have faith that we go and play Everton this weekend and go put on some kind of like dominating, like really assertive, really like, clever final third performance? Do you think we're going to do that?
I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to Goodison and we are going
No,
to
it's at home.
play...
It's at home.
Oh, sorry. Of course, we're at home. So sorry. We're going to go to the Emirates, and it's not going to be an overall dominating, stamina sapping display. I think it is just going to be a very specific, very precise control of the game, and we will get a goal. There's, I think we'll score, and we will just stop them from scoring. It is almost as if Arteta wants the football to be played as much as possible through our defenders. What I mean by that is keep it tight. I don't mind taking control the game. Have confidence that our defenders can manage any problems or challenges or issues, and then if we can get a goal up front, great. But I'm not going to be firing everybody forward to try and get that goal. I'm just going to have confidence that through 90 minutes, a goal will come, and maybe even a second one, and that's good enough for me, right? That is, and it's almost just trying to be efficient. That is the sense I'm getting as we're moving into the stage of the season. We're trying to be efficient. We believe we've got good enough players to be able to win games, and therefore, like you said before, almost like trust the process. I'm going to be efficient with my use of the ball. I'm going to be efficient with my game management. I'm going to know that whether through the football we play or some of our set pieces, we're going to get a goal, and then we're going to just control the game and then move on. It's not going to be the most prettiest football. It's not going to be the most dynamic football. It's not going to be a fan pleaser. But he has confidence that if at the end of the season he delivers trophies, which is what we've asked him for, mate.
Yeah.
Which is what we have all asked him for, then we will forgive him for not being the most eye-pleasing football. That is the state I think that this club is now in, and I'm all for it. Genuinely, I'm all for it. Give me the trophy, I can live with the football not being great. Give me the outcome. Arteta has now moved to being outcome focused, not pleasing the eye. We've done the pleasing the eye. We want nothing. Give me the trophies.
I think most Arsenal fans would agree with you, and I certainly do as well. I think the concern is that outcome driven is therefore contingent on the outcome. Yeah. And so when you go to Leverkusen and you just about draw, it's easy to be quite critical, right? Because you're basically playing an outcome driven method and you haven't got the outcome that you wanted.
I get it, but what obviously what you can't legislate for is some poor performances in the team.
Yeah,
all of our three attacking players were poor.
That's what the counterpoint though is. That's
the issue because for instance, when he took off Saka and he brought Madueke on, I mean Madueke was relevant, and you and I have spoken about this.
Yeah. We should talk about that a bit more now. Yeah,
right. What we love about Madueke, what we love about that guy, is he comes on and he has a go. Every time his mindset is tack. Let me take this guy on. Let me find a way through. Let me get fire the ball across or look for an incisive pass. His head is up, his eyes are forward, and his feet are pointing that way. Yeah. And he's going that way. And he's going at it every time at 100 miles an hour. And I love that about that guy.
I love it. You know why I love him more is because of the way we play. He's a breath of fresh air. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm happy when I see him in the lineup. I'm happy when he comes on because I know the thing is with him, it doesn't matter how we're playing. He'll play how he plays.
He was what I was expecting Eze to be.
Yeah.
That style.
Yeah.
Head up, focused. So, and I think that's what Arteta was looking for when he signed Eze. The person who, there's a system, but I want you to go and basically fuck shit up. That, do you know what I mean? That's what he does. It's just go and fuck shit up. That's what he was expecting Eze to do, and he's just not doing that. But Madueke is, and I love that. That's what I was hoping Martinelli would do, and he's got all the ability to do it. But it's almost like he's been ripped from him, and all he is just like a company man. You know what I mean? He just plays the system.
But this is what I was just going to ask you. That I was going to say, you're saying that's what he expected Madueke. So he expected Eze to be, and what perhaps we expected Eze. Let's extend that to all of these clowns, right? Like the way I look at it is like Madueke. Yeah, okay, fine. Like he's got a certain nature to him, and therefore certain skills that maybe some players they don't have exactly the same skills. But I don't see the other forwards approaching the game with the same mentality as he's approaching it. He's on the pitch going, I want to make something happen. Like I want to do something. I want to attack, right? And I don't get any impression that Arteta is telling him not to do that, and he's going against his wishes. So why aren't the rest of them like doing that? Why aren't they being that decisive? Why isn't Saka being that much of a like protagonist? I don't understand. Like he's not Madueke is not the most gifted winger in our squad. He's skillful, he's tricky, he's direct. Yeah. But like you could say similar things about some of those other players. They have other skill sets. Why is it true? Like why it's not just Eze who's not doing it? Is it that Madueke is going against Arteta? Is that the case? I don't know. You tell me.
Oh, I mean, mate, you need to think about it a little bit, right? Maybe he is, because it's Saka that's starting all the games. Madueke has actually really, has he done anything wrong? No. Has he come on and disgraced himself on the pitch and you think, oh, I don't know what this Madueke guy is doing? No, actually, you and I have spoken about him. All of us, we've spoken about him very positively on a number of occasions. Madueke's come on and he's actually just added something extra, something different. But it could well be, we don't know. It could well be that it's not the system that the gaffer wants to play. So that's why he doesn't get as many minutes as we would expect him to get. And Saka plays the system that the gaffer wants to play. But I like, however, the Madueke option, because that's what sometimes you need, is that you need options. And that's what he did tonight. There was options where obviously the system wasn't quite delivering what we wanted it to deliver, and we needed someone to shake it up. Madueke did that. And that's fine. That's fine, because if the system delivers, then you don't need a Madueke, and we see that sometimes the system's delivering and Madueke just doesn't get on. Right, the game
Yeah.
finishes and we're good. But
And
then
maybe
when the system's not delivering, then you go, right, it's just not working tonight. 90% of the time it does work. There's one of that 10% that it doesn't. Let me throw something in that is just going to completely mess it up. And
oh
okay,
yeah.
this works on these occasions, but in the long term, it doesn't work because it's not the system. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's why I'm saying,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I could, it perhaps is disrespectful to Arteta to say that, oh, look, actually, all that's happening is Madueke is going against his wishes, and that's why he's being so direct and like impressive, I suppose. In reality, it's probably far more intentional from Arteta in saying, you know, I want to play the first 60, 70 minutes of this game in a certain way. And I don't think Madueke is the best player to play it in that way that I want to play it. I want the technical security. I want the positional discipline. I want that for 70
exactly.
minutes of this game. Right. And then therefore, whether he's wrong or right to want that, at least that's intentional. So he's saying, this is what, and then, you're right. I think you made that point. Like, perhaps then it's a case of you say to Madueke, okay, go on now and do your thing. Yes, I want you to defend. I want you to do these things, but have some freedom, take a bit more risk. And, the only person I feel a bit sorry for then in that scenario, if that is true, is Saka. Because you could then argue, I wonder if Saka's there going, well, I want to play without risk. I want to play with freedom. I could do that stuff, but you're making me play in a far more rigid way, a far more kind of scripted way, if you like. Now, again, like, I'm hypothesizing here. That could also not be the case. And I would lean over to think that actually Saka is just not executing well at the moment, so I'm not gonna, just let him off completely. But I mean, okay, look, it is what it is. It's 1-1. Okay. I feel confident that we'll go through at the Emirates. It sounds like you do as well. Yeah. Um, it doesn't look like Man City. Let's assume Man City don't go through now. Okay. How do you feel about that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing in terms of our league campaign?
Really bad.
Yeah,
Definitely bad.
I'm
Right.
leaning on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely bad. Um, because it could do one or two things. It could either completely knock their confidence and actually their appetite for the fight,
Possible.
because they've been stuffed so badly by Madrid. Maybe the next leg they do go out and then they go, yeah, terrible campaign. And yeah, we're second, but actually, if they're seeing Arsenal still kind of fighting on all fronts and all they're then left with is the Carabao Cup and the league, players could already start to be thinking, all right, this season's kind of done. I might as well just start thinking
World Cup's
about
coming up. Let
World
me
Cup.
just think about
Exactly.
that.
World Cup's
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
up.
yeah.
There's, I don't want to risk the injury, all that kind of good stuff. Um, or it could go the other way. It could galvanize them and say, right, let's go and win something. But if this was any other year except a World Cup year, I would say, yeah, perhaps. But because it's the World Cup year, I do really think that's a factor. And I think that is where, and especially if they do then drop additional points, like this drubbing is going to potentially affect them for the next league game, because they're tired and their heads are down and they're knowing that it's a mountain they've got to climb, and now they've got to go to, I don't know who they're playing next, but they've got to go to whoever it is and play the next game. Could affect their league. And then if they do drop points, and let's say we do win at home against Everton, and the gap opens up a little bit, I think that's all. That's like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little tipping point. That's all the little tipping point you need.
Yeah, the short-term bonus, for us is, they are going to be really, really, really thinking hard about what they're going to do in that Real Madrid tie. Yeah, so they're going to be thinking damn hard about what they do next week. And it's not easy this weekend for them to go away to West Ham. Yeah, it suddenly becomes that extra bit difficult. They're going to go there. They're going to go, fuck me, this team is trying to survive. West Ham are going to go for it. And they know we have to win. They can't drop points. They've got to win. So they're coming off being a bit demoralized, knowing that they have to then show up in a few days and like put in a massive performance against Madrid. So, you know, in the short term, like you've got to hope, you've got to assume this increases the chances of West Ham nicking, you know, maybe getting a draw at least. You know, you got to think that. But let's say City go out.
Sorry, mate. Just before we move on to that,
Yeah,
let's not forget City's last game. They drew against Forest. Now that was a week ago almost, but they drew against Forest, and they let a lead slip, right? And
they've done that a few times.
They were doing well, right? But then let the lead slip, and Arsenal won. They took the 3 points. Gap opened up. Psychologically, you're thinking, oh, damn it,
yeah.
we've still got to, we got to climb that, man. So that's still in their heads. They're also thinking, we've got to go to Madrid next. That's still in their heads. So they then go to Madrid. They've been dropped 3-0 at Madrid. It's not been a good game at all. That's still going to be in their heads, plus the Forest dropping points. They've now got to go to West Ham. West Ham, who are fighting for their lives. And if you're right, they will still have this in their head, and they're still thinking about, what do I need to do to overcome that next Madrid tie? It's almost kind of like baggage that is staying with you, one game to the next, and it's very difficult to break free. Very, very difficult. And then if you fully do go out, that's why I'm saying, if they go out, it could be the tipping point, because they could just go, I'm done. I'm looking for the World Cup now, mate.
Yeah, because because we play first this weekend, right? So if we beat Everton, which we should, we bloody should. Yeah, there is no excuse for not winning at home. Everton got a good away record. I don't give a shit. There's no excuse, right? We go and beat Everton, we're 10 points clear. We'll have played 2 more than City, but mentally that's not really the point. City therefore are playing West Ham, and they got Arsenal 10 points clear, right? So even if we do everything we possibly fucking can today and win, there'll be 7 points clear. Do you know what I mean? That is like psychologically, that's fucking. I've got fucking Real Madrid in 3 days' time. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it could be a massive weekend, and like I in my mind, for whatever reason, I've got this huge anxiety. I've got this huge visualization that we don't beat Everton. It would just feel the most Arsenal thing to do, right? To just not beat Everton at a time where you're like, just do a job. Just do a fucking job. Yeah. Like, I don't like, play the shit house your way through if you have to, right? Don't do anything dumb, and just fucking make sure that you put something away, right? 5:30 at home, Saturday, fans are going to be drunk by then. Atmosphere will be really fucking good. 100% will be really good. It will be brilliant. Yeah. No excuses. It's got everything written for Arsenal to drop points. Do you know what I mean? I'm just getting really angry thinking about something that hasn't even happened yet.
That's amazing. You're getting angry. I can't believe you dropped these points. We don't even play the game.
I'm like already so angry at Eze.
And yeah, Eze's performance. Yeah, he's just, I know he's just gonna give a bad performance. He gave such a bad performance on Saturday. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but you're right, because at the moment, all the pressure is with City. Because you're right, 2 games in hand. So even by the time they come to play, if we are 10 points clear and they've got 2 games in hand, we've secured those points. They are still to play those games. to secure those points. That's where the pressure comes, right? Because if those points are secured, are in the bag, and we're basically looking at them, going, right, over to you. They've still got to play through all those minutes. They've got to do all the tackles. They've got to ride through all the emotional ups and downs and the refereeing decisions and the crowd being on your back and thinking about, I've missed this tackle, or they've conceded a goal, or they go behind, or there's an equalizer. They've got to go through that roller coaster, and the pressure mounts because in the back of the head, they're still also thinking, Arsenal secured those points. That is where all of a sudden it becomes so much more difficult when you're in the chasing pack.
It does.
So you're absolutely right. We have to get those points. We have to. Because 10 points, even with 2 games in hand, it's still 10 points you have to find from somewhere. And one slip up, you're in big trouble. And they will know it. Pressure, real pressure.
Real real
That
pressure.
to be honest with you, they've never had to experience before. They've just turned up and they win. They win. They win. They go on big runs. They go to Champions League places, Madrid and Bayern. They beat all these guys. This is a different experience for the City team. Drawing with Forest, Madrid now turning them over. Arsenal are 7 points clear, potentially 10 by the time they play. They're not used to this. Pressure.
Oh, absolutely. And they're also not used to this because half their players aren't of the legacy, like glory years of Pep. I'm making it out like glory years were like decades ago. No, but there's a lot of new players, right? So they've got this expectation of being City, but they don't have the experience of being City. So yeah, I think it's massive, and I think that the kind of the points pressure could get massive, regardless of how experienced Pep is, regardless, because I think there's another point there of like so much uncertainty at City. There's rumors that Pep, even though he's contracted, I think till 2027, there's rumors that this will be his last season. That the charges, all of that stuff, still not resolved. Like there's all this stuff that's just there. There's that it feels like a lot, and we might just therefore get quite fortunate for once in the way all of these things fall for us, and psychologically, we might be the ones that just navigate it the best. So look, like fingers crossed. So I mean, let's just end perhaps with predictions for the weekend. So let's predict our score and let's predict City score. So we play Everton first, my friend. I know towards it, given I'm kind of hosting today, I'm gonna make an executive decision, and it's not more the score that I really really like. I'm interested in, because the thing is, we scored like you never like you're kind of putting these things, finger in the air stuff. I'm more interested in whether you think like we win, lose, or draw, and what kind of game you think it's going to be. Like, do you envisage a dominant win and like a in control performance, or do you envisage something scrappier, something hairier? Like, what do you see? Does the Arsenal game do first?
I think for us on Saturday, I think we'll win. I think we'll win 2-0. I think one will be just like a normal open play goal. One will be a set piece, and I think it will be somewhat pedestrian. What I mean by that is that it's not going to be like a hugely dominant game. We're going to run through the pieces. It will just be a relatively standard game. But because we know what we need to do, certain players will step up. Like the defense will be solid. Deckers like Declan Rice, Zubimendi, they'll do their job. But it'll be 1-0. Maybe we get like and it'll be in each half. So we'll score a goal in the first half. We'll be all nervous because we know that at any point if we concede, we're going to drop points, and then probably let's say like in the 70th minute plus, we'll get that second goal. That will just settle the nerves, But that's what I mean by it will be a standard win. It is not going to be we're going to go 2-0 up early doors and then we're just going to dominate them and be peppering the goals. That's not going to happen at all. We're going to be nervous. We will get a goal, but we'll be nervous for most of the game, and then at some stage we'll just secure it. Set 2-0 and then that'll be it. And we'll go, oh, it should have been so much better. We should have played better. We should have secured that second goal earlier, but it's all right. A win's a win. And then we move on to City. That's how I think this game's going to go.
Okay. That's encouraging. I mean, I think we're not going to be very good, but I feel, right, that we're due a moment of magic kind of game. I think we're going to win 2-1. But I think that we're going to not be very good. I think we'll score first. I think that we'll then do the standard thing that we do when we score first, where we kind of think that we need to make sure that our positional integrity is prioritized, and then we'll end up not controlling possession. We do that all the time. I think they'll score. And I think in the last 10 minutes, the last kind of 5-10 minutes, someone's going to do something impressive for once. Someone's going to do something. Like it's going to be a great shot. There's going to be a bit of skill, and like great for something like that is going to have a good goal. I think we're going to score a good goal. So that is my prediction. City. What do you think happens to City?
I think it's going to be a draw, 1-1.
Really?
I think it's going to be 1-1.
So you think Arsenal go 9 points clear at the end of the day?
I do. I think this game, what's happened today, I think is going to affect them. What's happened over the last few games, I think, is going to affect them. And I think that they're going to be and they will have an eye on what are we going to do at home with Real Madrid to try and overturn that deficit. And there's no way with Real Madrid coming up that you're going and, going to go all out at West Ham. You're thinking the tactics will be, let's just come here, let's do what we need to do and get home. But it's not going to be let's dominate it, all out, because they've got to conserve energy. They've got Real Madrid at home and they're 3-0 down, which I think is going to result in a result that's not optimal for them. 1-1.
I want to say that that's what happens. I actually think they'll end up winning. For whatever reason, I think West Ham just let me down a little bit, and I think that Semenyo makes the difference. I think that they win 2-1. I think it will be I think they'll go 2-0 up. I think they'll go 2-0 up, and I think West Ham will score 1, but there might be a little bit of hairiness, maybe, but I think they go 2-0 up, and then it goes 2-1, and they win. I would love it if they draw. I mean, I could see it. It logically, it very well could happen. Yeah, so I'm kind of am with you. Okay, mate. I was about to say let's leave it there, but I want to respect the fact that we just had another question that came in, and I know it's a bit kind of going back to the game a little bit, but maybe there is actually a point here that we can draw onto a slightly bigger thing. So Christopher Hinton, can I call you Chris? Chris says, why no Dowman should have come on second half. Now, I thought about this at one point when we just looked pretty crap, and I thought there's a guy who he will beat a few players. He will do something interesting. He's not scarred perhaps by ghosts of the past, and his naivety might be a good thing here. And the only conclusion that I came to in the end really was that what's the benefit for Arteta overall here? Because if you don't go, if you weigh the pros and the cons here, if he brings on Max Dowman and then Arsenal go and concede another goal, and let's say we go and lose 2-0, it's very easy to point to that and say, you were naive, mate. You were very silly in a Champions League knockout away from home. 1-0's not that big a deal because you can turn it around at home. But if you brought on this kid thinking that, like this is going to be some magical story. I've got this super talented child, and he's going to like, win. He's going to, win everyone's hearts and minds and do something spectacular. How lovely, how amazing. Yeah, I think he probably just thought, no, I don't need that. Like 1-0's not even the worst thing. And so, I think that's probably where he went. I mean, Chooks, I don't know what you think about it.
This was a Spurs situation, mate, where people had like the wrong boots on, and all of a sudden we're thinking to ourselves, "What happened to this team?" Right? This was a situation where, yeah, there were players in that team that weren't playing well, but I agree with you. 1-0 wasn't the end of the world, and he believed, and I believed as well, the players on the pitch at any point could do something. And if you're going to bring on Dowman, you're bringing on Dowman potentially for, well, it'll be kind of for Eze, right? Potentially, because he wants to bring on Madueke on the right. So you're thinking, well, yeah, maybe Dowman potentially for Eze. But you got the other options that you had with Havertz and with Jesus, more senior, tested players, used to the Champions League, can deal with the pressure. It was the right call. Dowman's a super special talent, and he's Arteta's obviously clearly just trying to protect him a bit.
Mm.
He's going to bring him into this team in the right way. He's going to have a big, massive future, and it's the right decision. These are not necessarily the kind of games where you want to lump all the pressure on this kid's shoulders and say, right,
Yeah,
team isn't performing. You go and do something for us, Max, and then he comes on, and as you said, it goes in the opposite direction, and then before you know it, because he's still building his confidence and experience, so it might send him in the wrong direction. I think it was the right call not to bring him on in this game.
I mean, hey, my prediction for the Everton game, it could be Max Dowman. That is that kind of moment of magic that I'm thinking about. Because is there a broader point here about Max? Because I think you touched on, which is that, let's look broader than today's game. He probably will get opportunities. And, in the logic that we gave for Madueke, does Max present us with that opportunity as well, right? Because with the way that we play, putting on Max Dowman could be quite refreshing and just be quite, he'll play with that spirit, that kind of optimism, that sort of that flair, that kind of, lack of fear, if you like. For the same reasons that we think Madueke is really positive and could be a real asset, kind of going forward. I wonder if Dowman can have a very similar effect at times, just like when it is just getting stale, when everyone's running out of ideas, when everyone's kind of just in this place of going, okay, like I don't really know how to be inspirational right now because I'm so used to like playing in this relatively like robotic kind of risk-averse system. Like he's bringing on a Max, say, Max, go run at this motherfucker for a while. No one wants to get done by a fucking 15, 16-year-old, mate. Yeah. Like we've seen it already when it comes on. No one wants to get done by that. Like you don't want that. Right. So it could be like pretty important still, I think.
What's that saying about the manager? If you're putting all your hopes on a 16-year-old, right? What's that saying about you in terms of how you set up the system, how you set up to play? Now that you're in trouble, your plan B is let's go to the kid. I don't think in any kind of scenario it was the right environment either for the team or for Max to him to come on at this point in the second half. They've got to protect him. They're doing the right thing. It wasn't like a complete jeopardy situation. No, it wasn't right for him to come on. So I think they made the right call. I think the players that they brought on actually did the job that you needed them to do. They're tried, they're tested at this level. They can deal with the pressure. They know what they need to do. They came on with the right mentality. They delivered, and we'll see plenty of Max. But this wasn't the game for him.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Well, look, let's end there. Thank you, Chooks. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat. I feel a lot better, actually. I feel a lot better. I think your opening comments on, the fact that this may have all been a little bit more intentional than perhaps like, my feelings allowed me to process. I think of maybe like kind of just feel a little bit better than that. I don't know. It might also be the fact that like Chelsea and Man City just got pasted. Like that might also be, the reason I feel a bit better. But yeah, very much looking forward to this weekend. I still think we're going to come through this tie. I don't want to be complacent, but I think we'll beat Leverkusen at home. I think it'll be okay. And then, man, what a weekend we've got to look forward to. So listen, man, like, take care of yourself, Jukes, and thank you everyone for listening in. And Charles, Chris, thank you for the comments. Appreciate it. And you guys might have Mize back next time. I'm really sorry that he wasn't here, and sorry you had to just make do with us. But everyone, onwards and upwards. Let's fingers crossed for this weekend. See you later, Jukes.
Thanks, guys.
Bye bye.